Hi, please start your presentation.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Good morning and good afternoon, and thank you for joining this presentation. And now it allows me to move. That's brilliant. So thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, and thank you for joining this presentation on corporate culture with a focus on agility, sustainability, and diversity and inclusion. My name is part2. I have around about 15 years of experience in international business in companies of different sizes, industries, and ownership structures. I have predominantly worked in banking and digital transformation. And what I've seen a lot throughout my career is change. And I'm absolutely passionate about change. That's also the main reason why I decided to become a trainer for corporate culture. Now, what can you expect from this presentation? I'm not a researcher, so it will be a little bit different. I will be sharing observations through a practitioner's lens. I will be sharing thoughts and ideas, and you will see many, many colors. Now, building resilience for the future. The title of this track implies that something is going wrong, that we are not robust enough, and that we need to become more resilient. So this is what we will be focusing on in this first part, and we'll start with taking a look at the bigger picture. Now, the pandemic has taught us quite a few things, has revealed several shortcomings, including the vulnerability of entire economies. We saw that supply chains ceased to function as we knew before, as we were familiar with before, and we saw that this had a knock-on effect on companies, but also on the underlying societies. We can say that all major elements within existing systems, which we had previously relied on almost blindly, in which we never questioned, turned out to be fragile and called for immediate action. Now, what this comes down to is that what might look like a local problem at first glance can actually cause issues across the entire system. And this is very powerful, and this can be very scary as well. So now the question is, how can we achieve robustness? And there is typically three ways to do that. First, by reducing and or managing the risks. So that's the risk management part of things. Then by actively fostering robustness, or through a combination of both. And this is what many companies go for. In this context, it is helpful to keep in mind that change has been changing quite significantly over the last couple of years. If we go back in time, in former times, a couple of years back, we saw that changes were often small and voluntary. So it basically depended upon the companies to decide whether or not they wanted to embrace the change, whether they wanted to implement the change or not. Today, it's a totally different story because we tend to be faced with genuine transformations. Now, transformations relate to mega trends, and these are here to stay. So it's not a temporary thing. It's not a hype which is going to go away anytime soon. And this does not leave us the option to freely decide whether or not we want to embrace the change. There is no option for failure. There is no option for just not getting it done. We have to get it done, and we have to figure out a way how to do that. And one of the approaches in this context is agility, because we need a mechanism which allows us to quickly adapt to changes. And if I say us, I mean economies, companies, societies, and the individuals. So that basically applies at all the different levels. In this context, it can be very helpful to take a look at traditional project management and how that works. We typically have a planning horizon of a year, maybe longer. Then we have a first goal, which is to meet the deadline, and a second goal, which is to stay within the budget. And in many cases, this works perfectly well. However, when being confronted with a transformation, this is probably not good enough anymore, because it can very well be that you achieve your goal, that you stay within the budget assigned, that you also meet the deadline, but that the goal you reach is no longer relevant because the circumstances have changed so much that it just is not your goal anymore. And what has a lot of benefits in this context is agility. those benefits include the fact that we monitor throughout the process. So we monitor all the time, which allows us to learn. Inspect and adapt is one of the key principles of agility. And this allows us also to make adjustments on the fly as we go, as and when needed. And this way we ensure to always work towards the correct goal. We can say that companies that rely on agility navigate safely through uncertain times. This doesn't mean that challenges will not occur. They will occur, but probably it's not going to be that severe as in the cases of other companies not relying on agility. And we've also seen during the pandemic that agile businesses tend to be more robust. Now, resilient companies also require resilient people. And that is something which tends to get neglected at times. That's where the human factor comes into play. And employees, in order to perform well, need certain framework conditions, which include the corporate culture based on strong values, but also appreciation, well-being, and happiness at work, which is something which has been scientifically proven actually by researchers at the University of California in Berkeley, the Greater Good Science Center, that dedicated many years to researching exactly that topics and the benefits of happiness at work. Conclusions for this first part: the pace of change is unprecedented. We can see that old recipes do not work anymore. We need to come up with new solutions, new approaches, and we need to become more robust. In this context, agility is one approach, but it's just one approach, which implies that there is more to come, which we're going to focus on in the second part. The second part is about speeding up the process. And why is that important? Because today's challenges are not only global in nature and complex in scope, they are also important and urgent, which means that we need to see the results quickly. And that's where the recommendation comes from, to identify synergy potential. As a starting point, we use agility, which we've already taken a look at, but there is also other areas like sustainability and diversity and inclusion. Those areas have more in common than we might think. There is quite some overlap, but at the same time, there is still a lot of room for improvement. So that's where the potential lies. For me, agility, sustainability, and diversity and inclusion are main aspects of corporate culture. And why is it important to focus on corporate culture? Because many change projects fail. And in many cases, it's not so much a problem that the idea is bad. In some cases, we have brilliant ideas and still it's not a success. And part of the reason is that there are low acceptance rates. We need to take employees with us on this journey. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. It's not going to be a success. And what we see is that very often, all different aspects of the project and of the change project are being analyzed in detail upfront, except for one, and that's the corporate culture. Now, by making corporate culture a top priority, companies can significantly increase chances of turning a change project into a success story. And prioritizing corporate culture means investing in resilience. And that's what we're here for today in this track. So I invite you to get in touch if you're ready to join forces to build resilience for the future. Here are my contact details. Please get in touch if you're interested, get connected through LinkedIn. And thank you so much. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Bridget. Thank you for joining us. Do you have any questions from the chair, please? Thank you so much, Bridget.
You're welcome.
You can mute yourself, please. May I now request Dr. Sakit Sharma to unmute his mic and present himself. So you can start your presentation, please.
Sure, but whether someone is going to upload the presentation or?
Sure, sir, sure. So you can start your presentation, please.
Whether someone is going to upload the presentation or do I to have to upload it?
Sir, I've already shared your presentation. You may please start.
Okay, actually I can't see. It's fine.
So you can also share your screen if you wish to.
If it's fine, if you have already shared, that's fine with me. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. A very good afternoon, everyone. Thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity to present in this Amity Public Policy Conference. So this paper is being co-authored by my co-author Dr. Devika Sharma, and the title of the paper is Regulating E-commerce Platforms from Competition and Consumer Welfare Perspectives, Potential and Pitfalls for the Policy Design in India. So I'm presenting on behalf of both. I work as an assistant professor in School of Law, University of Petroleum and Energy Studies. And this paper basically talk about the emergence of the platform economy in India and what are the different approaches which uh, the government or the regulators are taking to regulate it. Okay, so coming to the platform economy and specifically focusing on the e-commerce sectors, how the government is promoting through its various initiatives like National Open Digital Ecosystems, Government Tech 3 era of platformization. Uh, Example can be seen in Unified Payments Interface UPI, how it becomes so easy for consumers to switch to different networks, and it is not basically a monopoly of a single player. So through a single interface, various service providers can provide seamless service, which is mostly at very minimal cost. So this is the impact of digitalization and how such open digital ecosystems can basically help in achieving what we can say democratizing the e-com. Okay, so democratizing that sector. So moving on this with this agenda, the government is also now has launched a year back what we call as ONDC, Open Network for Digital Commerce. So a year has happened with this development. So our focus is on how and what are the challenges specifically for government to achieve democratization in e-commerce, because currently India is facing a duopoly structure in e-commerce platform majorly, which is uh, Amazon and Flipkart are the key players in this arena, and therefore they can act as what we say as gatekeepers. So from competition law perspective, we see the network effects come into play when one big platform controls the market, and therefore that platform can control the uh, different service providers. A platform where at one side there are buyers and the other side there are sellers. So big platforms can therefore control both the sides. And therefore, how to regulate this? That becomes challenging. So this is good. So first key question in this comes, of course, digital economy, as the government has said, is going to benefit because we have less search costs, less replication cost, less transportation cost, less verification cost, as various economists has put it across, like the concept of government as a platform. So in this platform economy, how the government is uh, doing this, whether this approach will sustain in all the sectors, whether what the government has done in UPI, whether they can replicate the same in e-commerce. And the very first basic question research to be examined is whether there is necessity for the government or for the state to come and start offering such platforms like ONDC in e-commerce, whether the government should start doing business in such areas, which normally, as we move towards liberalization and privatization, are not seen as functions of the government. Okay? So these open digital ecosystems, platform economy, as we see, they of course can unlock various transformative solutions, value to society, as we see e-commerce platforms, social media platforms. So whether the role of the government in an economy like India is there to offer such services, even if it comes with a good objective of democratizing e-commerce, rather than that, whether we can have approaches where there is a better regulatory infrastructure to see that there are no abusive or anti-consumer practices by these e-commerce platforms. Moving ahead, so these key research questions, as I said, the first being whether the government should intervene in this arena. Second, whether ex post regulation, which normally we see Competition Commission of India comes into picture, whether that ex post regulation is sufficient to regulate such big players in India. Next key question is whether the debate, if we say the role of the Competition Commission is pivotal in this, then what exactly should be the standards analysis which the authority needs to apply in light of recent 2023 amendments in the competition law itself, as to whether certain standards need to be applied to ensure that there are no false positives coming out of it.
Sir,
That
sorry
has
to
to be
interrupt
seen.
you, but you have only 1 minute left. Please conclude your presentation.
Okay. So last question is whether ex ante regulation will help in this area, as we have seen in Europe. EU being one of the key uh, jurisdiction where you see application of a lot of principles and guidelines regulating all these sectors, and recent developments specifically keeping into view digital commerce. So whether there are certain uh, lessons to be learned by India. So focusing on keeping in view the time, let me strictly jump to the recommendations and analysis, keeping in view recent committee on CLRC, Competition Law Review Committee, and Parliamentary Committee, which recommended a digital wing in the Competition Commission of India itself. So that was one of the recommendations, that there needs to be a digital wing to regulate the digital platform economy sectors. Also, what approach we are being suggested now, as was there suggested by CLRC, is that we need to have more economic analysis, and rather than form based, we need to shift from effects based analysis in regulating the abuse of dominance by digital platforms, therefore ensuring there are less false positives. Last, second last, strong consumer policies need to be there, as we see the amendment in the Consumer Protection Act. Also, last one, as we see in Europe, in India also there is a lot of debate going on ex ante regulation. So rather than ex post role of competition authority, now the ex ante regulation also comes into play, and we see as Competition Amendment Act of 2023, which has been passed by the Parliament few days back only, that has given the power of passing
So if I may
guidelines.
interrupt, your time is over.
This
Thank you
is the
so much
last
for your.
recommendation. This
Oh,
is the
sure.
last recommendation I'm discussing.
Sure,
So
sure,
the
sure.
power of issuing guidelines by the competition authority is also there in Amendment Act of 2023. So therefore, based on all these recommendations, what final recommendation is, ex post regulation by competition authority in digital platform need to be there, but should be followed. But ex ante regulation rules, strong rules should also be there, so that there is a better regulation of these digital platforms in India. Thank you, everyone. If there are any further questions or any queries, do reach out to me right now or on email. Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions from the chair? Any questions from the chair? Sure. Sure, sure. May I request Ms. Ikra Nisar to unmute herself and begin the presentation, please?
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Please begin your
Yes, first
presentation.
of all, I'm really sorry. I'm infected with flu, so I might cough in between and my voice might not be very clear. So
Sure,
I
ma'am.
just,
You will be provided 5 minutes of time. Please begin your presentation.
okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Is my presentation visible?
Yes, it is visible.
So good afternoon, everyone. This is Ikra Nisar, and I'm a Year 1 PhD candidate. And my research area includes studying disruptive technologies and their role in national power. So, for today's conference, my topic is enhancing technology governance and cybersecurity. So, to begin with, there are two main questions: what is technology? What is technology governance? And what is cyberspace and cybersecurity? So, technology is the application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes. And technology governance, it refers to the structures, policies, processes that govern the use of technology within an organization. Cyberspace, it is a global domain with information environment consisting of interdependent networks of information systems. And likewise, cybersecurity, it is to protect those computer systems, networks, electronic devices from unauthorized access, theft, and damage. So the next question is, what is the relevance of this research? So there is a growing dependency on technology, and with this growing dependency, there is a risk of cyber attacks and data breaches. So enhancing technology governance and cybersecurity is essential to protect critical infrastructure, intellectual property, and personal data. Also, there are many emerging new technologies like artificial intelligence, blockchain, Internet of Things, which creates new challenges for governance and cybersecurity. So, research is needed to ensure that these technologies are developed and implemented in a safe and responsible manner. The regulatory landscape for technology governance and cybersecurity is constantly evolving. Research can help policymakers and regulators to keep pace with these technological advances. Also, there is an economic impact which so the economic impact of cyber attacks and data breaches is significant. It is in terms of financial losses and damage to reputation. There are ethical considerations, which is the development and use of technology, raise ethical considerations such as bias and discrimination. There are global concerns regarding technology governance, which is research can help to promote international cooperation and development of global standards and best practices which disregard any concern. There has to be public awareness in regard to technology governance, which where research can help to raise this public awareness and to mitigate the risk and the benefits of emerging technologies so that we can find a balance. Overall, research on enhancing technology is essential to ensure that benefits of technology are realized while minimizing the risk and challenges associated with it. So the research objectives would go like, the first would be to identify the key components of technology governance and challenges. Next, to explore the existing frameworks for technology governance and to investigate the role of stakeholders in technology governance. Third will be to evaluate the impact and to propose ways to incorporate emerging technologies in governance frameworks such as artificial intelligence, blockchains, and Internet of Things. Next would be to consider the global dimension of technology governance. Next would be to provide policymakers, industry leaders, and other stakeholders with insights and recommendations for enhancing technology governance. So, the research methodology undertaken is a comprehensive review of
Uh,
relevant
Ms.
literature.
Ikrarul, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but your
Yes,
presentation time is over. Thank you so much for presenting.
thank you.
Ms. Nilanjana Saha to present her paper. Yeah, but it is not as per the so that's what I say. Like it is not as per so never tell the ministry what is what is that's what I say. Yeah, sure. It's good evening by now, though. So, good evening, panelists, and good evening, all present here. My name is Nilanjana Saha, and I'm a research scholar of IR. And I'm currently working on China and nuclear proliferation in South Asia. So, going as per with the theme of the conference, I've related the topic and I've done a research on this, but it's basically an analytical research. So, I've done it on assessing India and European Union relations in the changing world order. Primarily, I've focused on the trade agreements and the bilateral relations, of course, between India and EU. And to just start with it before the introduction, I just want to say what my paper focuses on. It focuses on how, for the EU, India's emerging economy, global power status, and demography holds tremendous potentiality in forming an axle to counterbalance China's rise and influence in Asia, as well as the main proposition of upholding international peace and security should not be at stake in the form while maintaining multilateral ties with the nations. That should not be at stake. So these are the two research objectives of my paper. Coming with the introduction, of course, we all know it that the diplomatic ties, it started with in 1960s, and at present it has extended to political cooperation and trade and commerce area. These back-to-back engagements has given momentum to India's relation with European countries. And this is also an opportunity for India and European countries to iron out their differences over the perception of strategic threats which they receive, basically which India receives from Russia and China. Several political dialogues, the parliamentary interactions have already been there. And now the focus has been more on bilateral agreements ever since 2018. After pandemic, especially after COVID-19, what we have seen is the tendency of the attitude towards China has changed. The EU's attitude towards China has changed because of the pandemic and of course the current Ukraine crisis. So because of the slides template, I could not present as to how the factors, in the format. I'll just read it out from the paper itself as to what are the factors.
Chair's permission, I would say that you just present what they are now, I think, 4 points.
Yes, the core points, yeah. Yeah.
Then maybe,
All right, I'll just.
Since you are a scholar, so you are much better understanding.
No, sir. So, firstly, I would like to focus on the main two factors that actually changed EU's attitude towards China. The first is the COVID-19, as I said, which primarily affected the economic, political, and social strategical relationships worldwide. The hardening implementation of zero COVID policy, particularly in Shanghai, uncovered the authoritarian nature of the Chinese government. And the Shanghai lockdown severely affected several MNCs, including Qualcomm, Apple, and General Motors located at Shanghai. The lockdown also affected the world's most valuable semiconductor producer, that is TSMC. We all know that is Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, because their major production facility is in Shanghai. And now the MNCs, which were particularly best from European Union countries, they were also suffering because of this. The second reason that led to the change in European Union's attitudes towards China is the position, the PRC towards the Ukraine crisis, basically. Now, we all know that, the Belt and Road Initiative is also a program which is joined by Ukraine. And you can only tell it to be a successive program with the Eurasian market, provided Ukrainian gives in access to China. So that is the reason why the China's stance towards Russia has upset the entire European Union communities. Apart from that, in Xinjiang process, the Uyghur Muslims, their submissive, the China's submissive attitudes towards them have also been suppressed on humanitarian grounds to EU's member. Yeah. Okay. Now, basically the challenges for EU-India ties I will talk of. First of all, we have already seen the stance for India in terms of Ukraine's crisis. To my perception, when every country is focusing on their own national interest, it is absolutely viable for India to also focus its national interest. And because Ukraine is not its immediate neighbor, of course, basing on the national interest, it is important for India to actually focus on its own multilateral ties as to how it can counterbalance China's rise in the Indo-Pacific. And apart from this, to come up with the trade agreements and all, successive governments have followed protectionist policy. This is something which India should not do in the coming future. With the coming in of ease of doing business and with a more vivid approach towards activist policy, it is absolutely important for India, while the agreements are multilateral agreements, India should also focus like China the bilateral agreements within multilateral regimes. It is absolutely important for India to do so. And with way forward, I think geo-economic cooperations, collaborating with the international players, basically the big powers, the US and all, the formation of Quad, we all know it is important to counterbalance towards the whole Indo-Pacific region. And apart from that, this has given a strategic era for India. Of course, for India, it's a drawback because we have not seen the industrialization phases in India. We basically shifted from the agro-based to service sector, which is a lag back, but I think it is high time for us to focus on making India projects for collaborating with EU countries. That's all. Thank you. May I please invite Ms. Shivangi Khare to present her paper?
कोरे कागज का आकार अखबार बनाता है, गुरु को जिंदगी का हर एक हिसाब आता है। रंग बिरंगे फूलों से वो संसार को एक सुंदर बाग बनाता है। वही तो है जो तारों को रोशनी देकर खुद सूरज बनकर जगमगाता है। ज्ञान की एक एक बूंद से सींचता है वो अपनी फसल, तभी तो शिष्य कभी अर्जुन कभी राम बनकर परचम लहराता है। Very warm greetings of the day to everyone, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shivangi Khare and I'm here to present on the topic early working environment for this youth. It is an honor to address you all today, talking about the importance of creating an early working environment for the youth. As a society, we must recognize that the future of our economy and workforce is the hands of our young people. We must therefore prioritize their education and early working life, providing them with the opportunity that will help them to grow and prepare for the future. The working environment can play a very huge role in sharpening their youth, career and path, determining their overall success. Today, we have record numbers of youths unemployed. leading to the range of social economic problems. To combat this, we must create a workplace encouraging their younger talents to be creative and come up with the new ideas. As our Delhi CM Kejriwal also promoting the entrepreneurs, providing them for the funds that so they can come with their ideas and come up with the more business ideas, especially because business is the future of India somewhere. If we see that at the global stage now, there is a time that our Indian domestic companies should come up at the top of the international basis and be at the top. Okay, so I'm just concluding. Creating an early working environment for youth is the collecting responsibility of us and the stakeholders, employers, government, parents. Everyone is responsible for our future and our youth future, because our youth future is the future of our society. Thank you.
Next, we have a few roles from MA Public Policy and Governance.
Hello again. Due to the paucity of time, I'm keeping myself very brief. So my topic is creative disruption, a case for artificial intelligence in education. So to quickly begin with, why artificial intelligence in education? I'm just waiting for my slide to. Why artificial intelligence in education? And when Alan Turing, way back in 1917, asked, can machines think? Nobody or no one during his times would have thought that there will be a time in future when this will be a reality, a time when machines can really think. So artificial intelligence is something that can mimic human consciousness. And what makes artificial intelligence an amazing disruption of our times is that it has the ability to self-learn. The way humans have ability to self-learn from their experiences, artificial intelligence too has the ability to self-learn from the data that is provided to it as the input to build up its algorithm. Now, when I say that data is something that is fed into the artificial intelligence as the algorithm, so this is where the students can benefit by the way artificial intelligence can provide personalized learning experience to the students. When the input data is fed, let's say the strengths of the student, the weaknesses of the student, so artificial intelligence can give intelligent feedback to the students based on the input which is provided to them. Number second is the accessibility. Now, artificial intelligence can also facilitate remote learning, can also penetrate in areas that are underprivileged by offering virtual assistance, classroom learning, distance learning, and remote learning and education. So that's what signifies that this tool has immense potentialities in this sector, and we all know how well this artificial intelligence has done in other sectors. The kind of imprints this technology has made in rest of these sectors, let's say infrastructure, in medicine. We all know about IBM Watson. We all know about self-driving cars. So here too is the need to sort of reap in the benefits of artificial intelligence. Now, next is it also provides a 24/7 mentoring to the students, which is not possible for the human setting of learning. Artificial, you can always talk to your personalized virtual assistant and seek any sort of help that is needed. However, as they say, with every technology has its drawbacks as well. So one of the major drawbacks of artificial intelligence is the data privacy. We do not know how the data is collected, how it is stored, and to what organizations does it flow. And especially in a country like India, where we still do not have data protection law, can we afford something like artificial intelligence open to our students? There are so many ethical dilemmas that are revolving around the use of artificial intelligence. However, due to paucity of time, I would like to conclude here and This marks the end of our presentations. May I request Dr. Lakshita Bhagat and Dr. Devika Sharma to facilitate our esteemed chair and co-chair. May I please request Dr. Rumki Basu to come on the stage, please. No, ma'am. The winners. The winners. Yes. Here we will be only giving certificates of participation to our participants. Yes, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Sure. Please, yeah. Can I just close it? Sure. Can I please call Dr. Devika Sharma to facilitate our honorable co-chair, please. Can we please have a warm round of applause for our co-chair? Thank you so much. Can you please take a photo with
Is over, can I close? Hello, session is over, can I close? Hello.
The session has been closed.